Oh, yuck! It's a bonus episode! Hey, everybody! Two Goofs is coming at ya! You might have thought you were gonna have to wait a month for another episode. Simply not the case. Goofsters, you treat us well, and we're gonna reciprocate. We really appreciate all the encouragement you've given us. You want to hear more? We've got more tonight, and this is a doozy. Because we have one of our best friends from our time working at Disney, a Pluto performer, among other things, who really has a fun and exciting, unique story to tell, in fact. So we are happy to welcome Niki. How you doing?
Oh, hello. Fabulous, fabulous. How are you guys doing today?
We are hanging in because we're going to be hanging on every word.
Oh, no pressure.
Jeff, make yourself known.
Yeah, I am Jeff. Yeah.
That's what we look for. Okay, so long-time listeners, 2 episodes. You'll recall that in our first episode, the audition, we were talking about people we got to meet along that process, and for my second round of auditions in 2004, I met up with Niki, and we became fast friends during those 2 days that we had there. And there was so much going on during that time. And so to catch us up, you've heard Jeff's perspective on the audition, you've heard my perspective on the audition, but we need to hear Niki's perspective. More specifically, Niki, you were coming from a very interesting place, which is to say you had just graduated from high school. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And what was your high school experience like?
Well, I grew up in Las Vegas, which already makes for a weird growing up experience. So I grew up in Las Vegas and went to the Las Vegas Academy of Performing Arts high school. So all these things just making me extra weird throughout my life. Doing the performing, doing the theater thing. And 17, 18-year-old girls, they get their driver's license. They're only 4 hours away from the beach. We're like, we're driving to the beach every weekend. We would literally drive to the beach 4 hours, sit there, watch the sunset, and then drive home 4 hours. What is it like to not be tired as a teenager, right?
There it is.
I could not do that today at 34 years old. In a million years. There's no way I could do that. And one day I was at the beach. It was actually like a Valentine's Day. It was February 14th, so very close to an anniversary of that.
Yeah.
My girlfriends and I had driven to the beach, watched the sunset with all these friggin' couples around us, which, is already like, I'm 18, I'm alone, I'm on the beach with my friends, watching the sunset with a bunch of other people on dates. And I looked at my girlfriend on the drive home and I was like, dude, we should figure out a way to live like here. We should do that so we don't have to drive 4 hours. And then we went home, looked on the interwebs, and this was back when the interwebs weren't so savvy. I mean, this was before like a MySpace situation.
Right.
And checked the interwebs, and I was like, hey, you know what's weird? It looks like they do auditions for Disneyland characters, and it looks like there's one in 2 weeks. Like, do you want to go? Wouldn't that be funny if we got a job at Disneyland? That would be hilarious. And then here we are, and I did. So it was indeed hilarious.
Yeah, we're going to dig into some details on that for sure, because that's really interesting. Just like, we're here, we want to stay here, how do we stay here?
Let's do it, exactly,
yeah.
Exactly.
But also, we got into this a little bit in our discussion, which is, what was some of your work history prior to working at Disneyland? Because I think this is going to be a little bit unique to most people.
How do we, I'm allowed to tell the truth, right?
I think so. I think we're okay. This is a bonus episode.
So let's see. Right, bonus episode, exactly. All right, so first job was, besides being a babysitter and that kind of jazz that teenage girls do, I was a lifeguard at Wet n Wild, which used to be on the Strip in Las Vegas, but is now off of the Strip. I was a lifeguard for about $5.25 an hour when I was 16. And then I broke into working as a cabana girl at the Hard Rock Hotel. I did that for a couple summers.
And what's involved there? Just bringing drinks, or what?
Oh, yes. Yes. You wear a bikini and then bring drinks and towels to people that are rich, famous, or think or hope they would be rich and famous. And that's just one of those degrading jobs that you can have at a ridiculously young age in Las Vegas. So I had myself one of those. I did a Halloween at what they call the Fright Dome at Circus in Vegas. I got killed by Michael Myers over and over and over and over for an entire Halloween season. Every 8 minutes,
That's a lot of people's dream. Yeah, that's you lived a life as far as some horror fans are concerned.
Yeah, that was my final Halloween.
Horror fans' dream is to be killed by Mike Myers?
It's an honor.
I mean, over and over. It is an honor.
My choice to be Freddy Krueger, but either way, it's so good.
You got to be killed by someone iconic if you're going to be an actor at all. If you're going to, come on.
And then weren't you a gondolier at one point?
I was, yes. That was I did that the final Halloween that I was there. So we're at October of 2003 would be when I worked at that haunted house. While I was working at the haunted house, I do believe I also was a cocktail waitress at a strip club because, it's a bonus job you can have when you live in Las Vegas.
You were like 17 years old, yes?
18 years old. I was 18. I had just turned 18, and that's when you're allowed to help serve the beverages. So my glamorous life continues. And then after that, when I realized I had reached a new low, and I was only 18 years old, was when Jeff was indeed correct. I turned to gondoliering.
Like so many do.
They gave me a boat and I sang a bunch of arias. Exactly. So many downtrodden singers become a gondolier.
Although, if you've ever been to the Venetian in Vegas, I mean, you got to have a set of pipes on you to be able to be a gondolier. They can sing.
Yeah, it was a job I was very proud of. It was pretty fun.
Yeah. But, so all to say that you were really having a fun time in these early employment. I mean, Jeff has talked about like the degradation and just there was no respect, and you're like, I was just out there having a good time.
I was out there living my life. Yeah, exactly.
So now this is the question. So like you said, you were on the beach. You and your girlfriend decided, okay, yes, we're going to go out there together. We're going to make this thing happen. What was the thought process driving from Las Vegas to the audition? Because you had really no contacts in California, correct? You had no place to live. You had nothing.
Yeah,
what was the plan?
No place to live, no place to stay, none of that. We were just like, we're just going to try it out. So we knew it was the 2-day audition because we had read like a bunch of things online. Like there was even a bunch of things online back then. But we had read as much as we could online. We're like, okay, it's a couple days, so we'll go out. If we get cut today, we'll just drive home. And if we don't, then we'll worry about finding a cheap hotel then. First round of auditions happens. I got called back to the second day, and she did not. And I stayed, and she did not.
Let's stop right there. How did that affect your relationship going forward?
Okay, so we had a rough year and a half or so, but girls, we go through a lot of crap with our girlfriends, and we did eventually make it back to being friends, which is great because even through all of our ups and downs, we've had ups and downs several times, and we've been through so much crap together that I'm like, well.
So but let's get back to that then. First day, first round of auditions, you're going through. Is there a specific memory of that first day? Because obviously you had a support system. You had a wingman there with you.
Yeah, but it was like we were separate heights, so we were almost immediately separated. So it was like, well, okay, we got through like the first hour of being at the auditions together, and then was like, just kidding.
Okay. So then what was the discussion? I mean, basically she just said, I'm upset, I'm going home. Obviously, I'm not waiting around another day. So you were left there by yourself the second day. Is that correct?
Yes. So it was when the cuts were made, and she had to work a shift at Mervin's. That's a throwback. That doesn't exist anymore. She had to get to her Mervin's job. If and when she hears this, I hope she knows I love and respect her so much now. But we do dumb shit when we're teenagers. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't think I'm supposed to say bad. I'm so sorry.
We'll cover it with.
Yes, please. Yeah, give me some kind of a Disney noise. I'm so sorry. But yeah, so it was basically like, well, I have to work tomorrow. And I was like, well, I really want to go to this audition. She's like, well, I got to go out. And I think I said something along the lines of like, I guess I can try and find a way to get home. And then she left when we were at, I believe Jeff had told the story of the big building. What is it? Was it green or yellow? What color is that?
It's both.
Yeah.
Right. Green and yellow. Anyways, so the big building. So she had left me there because that's where you are at the end of auditions. And so I'm just there in that parking lot. And this was back before, like my cell phone was like not even a flip phone. It just had buttons, just like 9 buttons on it. My cell phone back then, I couldn't like search the internet to figure out where I could go stay. So I was just there like, oh, okay, I'm trying to figure out somewhere to stay. Does anyone know how I figure out somewhere to stay? And people were like, oh, you don't have anywhere to stay? You're really cool. My mom will let you come over. And so I did. I went to a total stranger's house. His mom made me dinner. And this was a guy too. And this was Alex. Oh, I love him so much. Alex Ramirez. And he was only 17 at the time. He was going into his senior year of high school, so 16 or 17. And he just like told his mom, hey, this 18-year-old girl is here from Las Vegas and she doesn't have anywhere to stay. Can she stay in our house? And his mom was like, come on over. Here's some food.
Anaheim is the land of dreams.
Exactly.
Nobody
like,
speak
well,
ill of
Disney's
Anaheim.
not going to be that bad. Exactly. So that was a as much as it sounds like a traumatizing experience, I immediately was thrown into the culture of like, okay, we're all going to be a family. We're all going to get through this. And we haven't even made it through the audition yet. It was great.
Very cool. And so this is the thing. So I think that we really met up the first day, because I think, again, you were probably a different height. You were doing everything you were doing. And I think it was second time around, next day, is when we really started hanging out together in the hallway, as you're waiting for things to happen.
Our last names are close.
Yes.
Were. So I believe we ended up near each other for those, they do that like personality interview, like the group interview.
Right.
Or they put you at a table with 5 people and you got to try and shine harder than those other 4 people. You're like, psh, I've been in theater for 12 years. I got this.
Obviously, Niki, you've already seen she was able to schmooze her way into a night's stay.
Very charming.
Yes, charismatic, very fun. And so I just remember like hanging out. I think we may have even gone to lunch together when they had the lunch break or whatever.
Yeah.
Taco Bell, I think.
That sounds like us back then.
Yeah. And so when everything was kind of said and done, like I remember talking, but that's how clueless I was. I didn't know you were going through all that at the time. But I remember towards the end, towards the end of the audition, you were buddying up to this Mickey height girl named Wendy.
Yes.
And suddenly you guys are best friends. And weren't you in the exact same position where like she came from up north and she didn't have a place to live yet either?
I had nowhere to go. And we were like, looks like we just became best friends.
Yeah. So it's all of a sudden you guys are roommates and you find your apartment. That was that. Like.
Yeah. When you work at Disney, everyone else finds your apartment. Am I right, guys?
Yeah, it was the party place for sure.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I think they found your apartment. I don't know about Adam and I. We didn't necessarily live that life.
Right.
Well, I was still living at home. Well, we both were.
I don't know that, Adam's house was the party place.
Hey, there's always good snacks at Mama Pope's house.
That's true. Healthy and otherwise, yes, always ready to go. So at that point, I recall that, so we're getting into what we covered during our last episode, which was we were talking about the training process at Disney University and all that. So you got hired in as a Pluto height performer. Mm-hmm. And what other characters did that qualify you to play?
I was on the smaller end of Pluto. There's like the smaller and the taller, there's like a 3 or 4 inch difference. It's not much, but it's just slight enough where like I could only do the little guys. Like you could always tell it was me and Pluto because I had a lot more ruffles at my ankles than normal Plutos did because I was very small. I technically should not have been allowed to do Buzz Lightyear, but he was my absolute favorite. And I definitely openly will admit that I cheated and stood on my toes so I could get approved for him.
Oh.
Because Buzz, you get to almost look out of eyes. So you get to see little boys look at you like you're just the ultimate hero. And it's just like the coolest thing, man.
Did you ever get to play Smee?
I got to play Smee only like once in a special event.
Oh, okay.
Was it. Yeah, so I only got to put the costume on once. But so fun because he's such a goofy dude. But you know who my favorite actually was Rafiki. Rafiki was my absolute, because there's no rules with Rafiki. There really aren't. Like, and he's got these cool gnarly fingers. So you can.
Well, there's supposed to be rules with Rafiki.
Well,
Rafiki's never follow the rules, I think, is more accurate.
Yeah, that's why it's awesome. Come on, don't act like Blues follow the rules. Come on.
Oh, that's true. I'm not saying that they do.
Now.
It's true.
But,
well, it's also because like only a small percentage knew who you were. Oh, look,
It's true.
the baboon with the blue butt. Like,
Right.
Yeah, that's us.
Yeah. Sit down and join my drum circle, children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's what I recall about Niki's Pluto in particular, is she literally played so heavy on the dog overtones. This wasn't a person in a costume. This was a dog
right?
walking on 2 feet, and you could just hear her panting in the costume. And always moving, kind of shaking, just the excited dog. Did you have dogs growing up, Niki? Did you have a study?
Huge dog person over here.
Now, where did you work most often, to your recollection?
I did about, I want to say 3.5 years in the character department. So it's like there's different phases. As you gentlemen know, of course, I want to say like when I first started, you end up with a lot of the main streets, the ToonTown, and then I progressed into a lot of Goofy's Kitchen, which was where I would get to hang out with Jeff, which was awesome. And Goofy's Kitchen is cool because you have more opportunities to actually interact. Like it's not just the line of books being thrown in your face for an autograph. Like you actually get a chance to interact and make memories with the kids. So that's why I really enjoyed that. And Pluto, actually there, I'm not sure if it's still Pluto to this day, but Pluto at Goofy's Kitchen used to have his own little photo location, and it was legit just like 30 minutes at a time of just playing with kids, like one kid at a time, getting all the attention they deserve. Like, oh, it was so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, so you mentioned getting to hang out with Jeff there. So I think this is an interesting time to discuss kind of how you and Jeff met. Because, again, we were friends after the audition. Again, I was over at your apartment a lot. We would go see movies. We'd hang out.
Right.
It was good times. I even went to Las Vegas to meet your family at one
tried
point.
to wrestle my father.
Which was awkward. I was instructed.
Yeah, hang on. Before Adam glosses over this too much. So it should be pointed out that at this phase in Adam Pope's life, he was aggressively dating. I don't mean like dating in an aggressive fashion. He was dating, like he dated people.
Getting out there.
Right. And
Lots
so
of fun to be had.
There was some form of dating, and the one thing that I think it was your brother, wasn't it, Niki, who said, "When you meet my dad, Adam, you have to wrestle him."
Yeah.
And so somehow there is video footage of Adam literally walking into the Paul household and going, "Hello, sir. I've been told I'm supposed to wrestle you." And then he grapples this Marine.
Oh my God.
Adam Pope, he's a legend.
You really are, sir. You deserve a slow clap on the daily.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I respect your dad most of all because he's a Kiss fan. I'm going to see Kiss at the end of this week on the End of the Road tour in Vegas. I'm hoping your dad will be in the audience. Who knows?
Me too.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is interesting. So we'll just lay it on the table. We're all happily married now.
Right.
Not to each other.
To each other, not all three of us.
Yeah, and there was some form of dating between me and Niki, which I almost had forgotten that because we got over that stage pretty quickly.
But
it was I understand.
Yeah, we realized pretty quickly we're better as friends than anything
Definitely
to do with
besties
romance.
forever.
Yeah, it's like you get into that phase of when you're in your early 20s. It's like, oh, a cool girl, I must date
Wait a
her.
minute. You are the opposite sex, and we get along.
Yes. And they're like, oh, wait, never mind. So you were a turning point for me is, I can have a friend who's awesome and cool, and I don't have to date her. Got it. Okay.
I do what I can, man.
Yeah. But speaking of dating, so what came up at a certain point is that, and Jeff tells the story best, but there was a shift that I needed to trade.
No.
All right, you tell the story,
already.
Jeff.
This now I should point out the end, well, no, not the end of the story, the immediate end of the story. When we get to the climax here, my friends that I was at their house at the time that this story ended, they said, and they've known me ever since high school, they said, "Jeff, I have literally never seen you this angry as you are at Adam Pope right now."
Oh, my goodness.
That's the end of this, well, not the end, but you'll see when we get here.
Okay.
So, here's how this goes. Adam, going through his story, remember, so he was working at Disneyland, then he left, and then he came back. So he'd been at Disneyland for a few months at this point. Now, part of Disneyland, not just the character department, but all employees there, maybe not all, but non-union at least, is you get your schedule that comes out in blocks. So they release it in I think, was it every 2 weeks, 4 weeks?
I think it was 2. I think.
You remember 2? Okay.
Yeah.
So they release it then so you know what you're doing for the next 2 weeks, and then they would release a new one. Anyway, you would know at least 2 weeks in advance. Now, the way that this would work, the tradition is that if you're a rookie there and you want a day off where you have already been scheduled and you call the office and say, hey, I know I've been scheduled on Monday. Can I get this day off? They're going to say, you need to find someone to take your shift. And you're a rookie, so you don't know anybody. So literally, what you would have to do is you would have to take the book of the schedule and you would have to go down every single person who had that day off that was your height and call them and say, hey, can you take this? Hey, can you take this? For at least a year, I did that. Now, here's Adam. Adam, working there for about two months, he wants to get a day off to go out on a date. And he calls me up and goes, hey, Jeff, I know you're not working on this date. Can you take my shift because I want to go out on a date? And I've got a morning shift in ToonTown. And I'm like, there is no way I want to take this shift. I'll tell you what, Adam, because I'm your friend, I'm going to do this favor for you. If you go through the list and you call every single person that you're supposed to call and none of them are willing to take this shift, then I'll take it for you. Oh, but Jeff, do I have to call all those people? Adam, this is what rookies have to do, dude. I did it. We've all done it. So that was a conversation we had in the morning at some point. Later in the afternoon, I think he called back. I called back. I don't remember exactly how it went. We reestablished communication to find out how it was going. Jeff, I don't want to call all these people. Adam, this is what rookies have to do. And so finally it gets down, okay, you know what? I'll tell you what. None of that works out. I wouldn't mind going to a baseball game. If you can call this one gal that I was interested in, if you can get a hold of her, and if she's free and able to go to the game, maybe I'll do it then. But Jeff, I don't even know her. I don't even know who that is. Adam, come on now. So time goes by, et cetera, et cetera. I'm at home. I'm with my friends. And this kind of continues. And so I finally go, okay, Adam, I'll tell you what. If you can't get a hold of her, heck, dude, if you can find me a hot date, I guess that'll be okay. So later that night, Adam had spent the rest of the day, apparently, contacting the different females that he knew to find me a date. Not calling goofy people to take his shift, but calling girls. And the first or second person that he called was Niki, who turned out to be a baseball fan. And so he goes, guess what, Jeff? I got you a date.
Oh,
and she's cool. I was more concerned about your happiness.
ToonTown sucks and you know it.
True.
ToonTown is not even worth the happiness, man.
It's so fulfilling, especially on a Saturday morning.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're a saint, sir. Saint.
So then I'm with my friends at this point, and I probably I probably both yelled and hung up the phone on Adam. And was just steaming the rest of the night. And so that was where my friends were like, I have never seen you this angry. So then the happy ending to the story is that, so then that Saturday in ToonTown, ironically, Niki was also working.
Yes!
Working with Paul, who was my double, and you were doing Pluto. We were doing 30 minutes on, 30 minutes off. So we'd never see each other because he would be on with Niki and then I would be wearing. Paul had this beanie that he had put on where all my stuff was. But I didn't think it was Paul because I could have sworn I saw you wearing that beanie. So after the next set, I'm like, what is she doing? I don't know, because I knew this was who I was supposed to go on this date with. So I moved the hat somewhere else for the next set. Next, I come back, the hat's back in the same place. I'm like, what is happening? So the entire day, I keep moving this hat around, thinking I'm flirting with this girl, but it's really my double, this guy Paul, who's like, where's my hat, man? You keep moving my hat everywhere.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
So needless to say, that was the point at which, Jeff and Niki obviously started having fun and spending time together. And then, so I guess that does show us, a couple things. One, what will happen will happen. Friendships were formed. Of course, I guess that's why there was forgiveness in the end.
It's true.
But also, this isn't the first time, because if you've heard back to the other episode, when I hired in twice, I was supposed to fill out a referral form for Jeff to get $50, and I didn't do that either.
I lost $100 too.
Jeff
ridiculous.
Is Saint Goofy for sure.
$100 and a Saturday morning in ToonTown. This is ridiculous.
It's true.
So, but this is my question then for you, Niki. So, what during your time there were some of either the more special moments or some of the crazier moments that you experienced as you started? Again, 3 years. That's a pretty substantial time to be there.
I think for all of us, one of our favorite things is always Make-A-Wish. So I've done a couple of really cool Make-A-Wish things with some kids that, you like do the moment and then you come back, take off your head, and everyone thinks you got beat up because you're crying hysterically. Like, what is wrong with you? I just did a Make-A-Wish on the rivers of America. I can't. So those are always super special. But special events where we get to do cool stuff like ride in costume, that's fun.
Ooh, what did you get to ride?
I'll tell you what wasn't fun. I one time rode the, I don't remember, they've renamed it a couple times, but the rockets right in front of Tomorrowland.
Mm-hmm.
They'll put you in that, and the centrifugal force, if you're in the wrong costume, not awesome. I rode that in Eeyore once. I rode that with a kid. Oh my God,
Whoa.
The ring. Oh my God, it was the most painful, however long that ride is. But
I was going to say, Buzz Lightyear would have been more appropriate to get up in that thing, but
right, exactly.
Eeyore, sure.
Can fit. Can Buzz fit in those?
I don't think he could because he's too rigid.
Yeah.
Like, I had to squish in there in the other case. But it was because we were doing the breakfast right there in that cafe. So it's real easy to slide from that cafe. Yeah. Yeah. So you go from there, and it's real easy to slide on the ride and then get back and ice your knees.
Well, so this is my question then, too, for you. So you were saying, again, one of your previous jobs, earning $5.25 an hour. Roughly what were you earning at Disneyland, and how much of a difference was that making?
I want to say, when did we hire in? Like March or April of 2004,
right.
I think. And didn't we make like $8-something an hour? It was I
think the minimum wage had just been raised, and it was kind of just barely above that.
Yeah. But, I mean, we get paid weekly, and we get into the park for free, so it's like, we're all broke, but we can all get into the park and go hang out for free, so that's cool. Right.
And I feel like Niki, you did actually go into the park to play.
I did. It really became like a sort of home, as cheesy as that is, like being from a place like Las Vegas. It's not a very comfortable place to really find your home in, but to walk down Main Street in the morning before the gates are open, you just kind of, that stays with you. And that's so true. Even when
especially
the park's full
Christmas
of people.
Time.
Oh God,
Christmas
my absolute
time?
favorite.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Niki. So what would you say, this popped into my head, and I have a feeling that Adam and I are going to cover this on a later podcast, but if you had to say, from our time being there, what was the best break area to break in all of Disneyland?
Ooh, see, but it depends on what shift you're on, too. They had really good food in that break area right below Frontierland. They had, like, the really big cheese sticks underneath there. It was underground. Why can I not think of what it's called? It was, like, under, like, Club 33, sort of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, what did you guys do under there? I never once broke under there.
Me neither.
I only went there when I worked Club 33, and I want to say Villains, during October, Villains would break in one of those break rooms.
What villain were you playing?
No, I was hosting Villains.
Oh, you were a host.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Oh, so let's talk about that a little bit then. So you got into hosting in addition to character work.
I did, and hosting is unbelievably fun because in character work you don't get to say anything, but you get to be your own character when you're hosting, so that's fun. And I actually pride myself on the Christmas that I was the over at the Jolly Ranch, one of the little main ranchers over there. That was fun. So I got to color with the kids and tell stories with Pluto. It was a good time.
Ew. Did you have a twang?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
You have to.
Right. Which I think we should point out. So host is the person, the human, not in costume, that is with the character. And at least for me, I always found there were 3 kinds of hosts. There was the host that thought they were your bodyguard, which at least me as a veteran, I was like, get out of here, dude. I don't need you. Especially because it would always be some like 5'3" girl. And I'm like, no offense, but I don't need you to protect me. Like, look at how tall I am, especially in this costume.
Right.
There would be the ones that drove me crazy that would be your translators.
Oh,
like, that
I hated
kind of bugged me. Because sometimes they wouldn't know what you were saying, and they would totally take it out of context. Oh, yeah. What's that you're saying, Goofy? Oh. But then my favorite, and this was a rare thing. So like Niki, I don't think you were ever my host, Niki, but if like it took a lot of skill to. There was a couple, like if you guys remember Shay was one of my. He hated hosting, but he was so spectacular at it.
Right.
Because he acted as though he could fully understand what you were saying. And so he just reacted as though you were speaking English. And then everybody else could then figure out what he thought you were saying. And then, like, it was awesome. It was just like, this is just my buddy. He's just here.
Yeah.
And then, so hosting was a fine art, I thought.
I agree. I think there were some mistakes made where people who weren't ready. You got to be ready. Because the host has to be ready to tell people things the character cannot and the things they don't want to hear. Like, so you're very correct. It's a special line people have to walk.
What were your shifts like when you worked at California Adventure? Did that differ a lot from working at Disneyland proper?
When you were at California Adventure, it just felt like you were being punished, like you weren't allowed to work at Disneyland. Like in Sun Plaza, there's no shade. And it's 100 degrees outside, and you're listening to the same 5 Beach Boys songs the whole day. It's like, what did I do wrong? In Christmas season, they think it's fun to put a Christmas hat on all the dang hosts and make them wear a vest, even though it's 95 degrees outside in California.
Although that you had to have been the real stars at California Adventure, because guests were so bored during those few years that seeing a familiar character, you're like, I can't believe it. Yes, Pluto's here.
Right.
Here.
That's 100% accurate. I mean, there were a couple of break rooms that were lovely over there, but for the most part, maybe it's because I came from so far away in Las Vegas. I just wanted to be where the Magic Castle was.
Remember when they used to give away free tortillas?
Oh,
you guys are out for that?
Yes.
That was a big deal.
Yes, that is a big
Always
deal.
Getting fresh
and
tortillas.
Bread.
Yes.
Hanging out with the Bugs Life characters.
Now, let me ask you this, Niki. So, did a little bit of character work. We're doing hosting work. Towards the end of your time there, were you pulling double duty as far as, because I know you got into waitressing at ESPN Zone eventually. So what was the impetus for all of that? I
worked there for about 3 years after I turned 21. That's when you start realizing, like, how many more years am I going to have this many roommates? Like, what am I going to do to, like, I cannot do this forever. So you start just kind of figuring out, what can I do besides this? This is all I really know right now. So I started hostessing and waitressing at a restaurant in the Block at Orange. And so that was actually the restaurant I started at. And then I worked at another restaurant in Newport, just kind of learned how that whole business worked, and then realized I could make the money if I moved back to my hometown. So I moved back to Vegas, made a bunch of money, and then was like, I still miss the ocean, and went back. And that's when I worked at ESPN Zone.
So ultimately, it was more of a financial decision. It was just to say,
it really was.
Can't make a living.
Yeah, like if it were financially feasible, I'm like, who wouldn't want to, one Saturday out of the month go do that? Like, that'd be awesome.
So, Niki, what is it exactly that you're doing these days? Are these fitness competitions? Is it just personal goals? What is it you're doing?
I can't do fitness competitions. Okay. That's not for me. I don't think having a six-pack is worth giving up ice cream, and I stand firmly by this. So I am a personal trainer. I train clients out of my own personal business, which is ran out of my full gym that I have in my garage, which I'm very lucky for that.
And your body is your business card, basically. You're like, look
Pretty
at this.
much.
This could be
Yeah.
you.
Do you want to do this? Precisely. And I also coach at Orange Theory.
Cool.
So that's fun. I get to like yell it. That's why my voice sounds a little raspy. I yell at rooms full of 40 people at a time to just keep going.
With music?
That's what
Is there
I do.
music
Yeah.
you have to yell over?
Loud
Okay.
music and then running around and screaming at people.
Now, as you look back on your time there, is there one story in particular people ask you like, oh, what was it like working at Disneyland? Is there something that's a fallback for you that you go to that's just that pleasant memory you always like to share?
God, there's so many, but I have to say, like, when I think of realizing, oh, because I work here, this is the greatest perk. I used to love when you were in Main Street, which is one of the most hectic places to be a character. So you're having a hectic day all day. Finally, when the fireworks happen, when we'd pull the benches away from the break room so that we could all get a great view of the fireworks together, and we'd all just sit there, half in costume, half in our leotards, whatever. We would all just sit there, sweaty messes, and watch the fireworks together. That is an unreal memory that no one except for all of us that are, lucky enough to have worked there would have.
Oh, yeah, that is super special. I think that's what, something that we circle around as we come back, and we're actually going to do a full episode just on kind of the break room bonding.
Yes.
Just like the people you
love
meet, and that's almost the most fun that you have there. Is
really
there
is.
any particular character who was just an individual that was a character that you recall from your time there that you just think back?
Oh, my goodness.
You don't have to use the last name, but just be like, oh, this guy or that girl, she was
my
crazy.
Goodness. You know who I have to go with? One of the purest hearts ever. I got to go with Waggleopolis, little Chris Waggle.
What?
I love
yeah.
Chris Waggle, man.
Did you call him pure of heart?
Chris
Chris.
Waggle is so awesome. I love him so much. Like he'll get riled up about things that don't really matter, but it's all because he like cares about people and he like doesn't understand the line between like people's and like I love that guy. I'm so sorry, God. You guys keep putting me on your podcast and I've got my dirty mouth. I'm sorry. But
Did you see the time he was on Judge Joe Brown?
I did not.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's stories like that. It's anyone that you can mention and everyone's face lights up.
That's true.
Awesome. Like,
yeah, Waggle was a character himself.
and that's what we asked was like a character. Like he's a human I will never forget and I'll never be sorry that I know. And he's one of those, in this day and age, I am the first person to admit that I avoid eye contact when I run into people that I know. But if I were to see him across like the way at Disney, I would run across a crowd of people to be like, yo, I need a high five. Let's do this. But just good vibes, man,
Those were good times. All right. Niki, before we let you go, is there any other story that's coming to mind here? I feel like we just need to have you back.
There's so many, and I'm trying to like remember like things, and I'm trying to remember, was that Jeff that day or was that Adam that day? It was one of you, like all these funny stories. And I'm like, dang it, just trying to think, but we just have so many great memories. Like, and I feel like what I wanted to touch on earlier was my like 3.5 years that I spent in the character department, I feel like influenced me more than the 4 years I spent in high school and everything. Like, it's just because everyone's growing up and going through crap and still trying to have a good time. And it's a great way for people to grow together, and people stick around because it's such a fun job that everyone really does get a chance to grow at least for a couple years together. This is an awesome opportunity I would never take back.
Yeah, I think for all of us, too, it's a little different because, like Jeff and I, we both just went to community college, so we didn't have, like, the 4-year college experience.
Same here, yeah.
Yeah, so I think for us, that was our fraternity or our sorority or our, just our college, getting a little wild. You just had fun behind the scenes at Disneyland.
Yeah, exactly.
With the most
We're so
fun
crazy.
people out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you were definitely a big part of that for a lot of people, Niki, and we thank you so much for being with us and sharing these stories because no one has a story like yours, that's for sure.
I love the podcast. I can't wait to keep listening, guys. Keep it up.
Thank you. So ends the bonus episode. Look for another one, possibly next month. A couple other people who have worked in the park in the past in different capacities, and some of them even as guests with maybe a more storied history. But in the meantime, keep an eye out for a March's episode because Jeff and I are going to be taking you through a day in the life of a costumed character. So you're going to see through our mask. You're going to get an idea of what it was really like being there for 8 hours a day and the fun to be had. So, until next time, oh yuck, bonus! There's an ending.
Bonus. I like it.